The nature of evil. Understanding darkness within humanity. In every era, mankind has asked a single haunting question. Why do people do evil things? Why do some carry kindness in their hearts while others carry poison in their veins? To understand this, you must first understand a brutal truth. Evil doesn't always wear horns. It wears smiles. It wears kindness. It wears familiarity. It hides not in the shadows but in plain sight, within the hearts of those who pretend to be pure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, jealous, and surly." He wasn't being cynical, he was being prepared. He was teaching you to see human nature as it is, not as you wish it to be. You see, the Stoics never believed that evil comes from demons or destiny. They believed it comes from ignorance, from a mind blind to virtue and enslaved by desire, fear, and pride. Seneca wrote, "No man becomes wicked all at once. Evil is not born. It grows slowly, silently, within those who let greed overpower reason, who let ego silence empathy, who trade integrity for comfort." When you start to see the world through this lens, you stop being naive. You stop assuming that everyone has your heart. Because not everyone does. Some people smile at you while secretly hoping for your failure. Some people offer help only to chain you with favors. And some, the most dangerous kind, pretend to be your friend while feeding on your peace. A Stoic never judges people by their words because words can lie. He judges by actions, by patterns, by energy, by truth that repeats itself in behavior. Evil people often speak in charm but act in shadows. They justify cruelty with clever reasoning. They twist logic to hide their motives. But beneath all their words lies one driving force: control. Evil is not just hatred. Evil is control, the desire to bend others to one's will, to use others as tools for personal satisfaction. It's manipulation wearing the mask of care. It's pride disguised as leadership. It's deceit disguised as love. And the worst part? They don't even think they're evil. They convince themselves they're just doing what's necessary. That's why Stoicism tells you, don't waste your energy trying to change an evil person. You cannot heal a heart that does not see itself as sick. You can only recognize it and step away. But spotting evil requires more than intellect. It requires self-awareness. Because your own emotions are the gates through which evil enters your life. Anger blinds you. Desire blinds you. Loneliness blinds you. And that's when they strike. When you crave validation, when you need company, when your guard is down. That's when the serpent smiles and says, "I understand you." And by the time you realize their intention, they've already fed on your weakness. Epictetus said, "When someone does wrong, remember they act out of what seems right to them." He didn't excuse their evil, he exposed its nature. People act from their own distorted beliefs. The liar thinks lying is clever. The manipulator thinks control is power. The traitor thinks betrayal is survival. To them, their darkness is light. So, do not expect truth from those who've built comfort in deception. The Stoic way is not to hate such people. It is to understand them and remain unaffected. Hatred only gives them power over your soul. Indifference, calm, disciplined indifference, strips that power away. That's what Aurelius meant when he said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." When you encounter evil, you have two choices. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you wiser. The Stoic chooses wisdom. He observes the dark and strengthens his light. He doesn't curse the storm, he trains to walk through it untouched. Understand this, evil exists not to destroy you but to test you. Every deceiver teaches you discernment. Every betrayer teaches you detachment. Every manipulator teaches you self-respect. Without these trials, you would never evolve into strength. Without darkness, you would never learn to guard your own light. So how do you spot an evil person? By observing how they make you feel. Good souls bring calm. Evil ones bring confusion. Good souls free your mind. Evil ones bind it with guilt and dependence. When your peace decreases around someone, that is not love. That is control. When your self-worth fades in their presence, that is not friendship. That is manipulation. Energy doesn't lie even when words do. The Stoics teach us that virtue is the only good, and everything that opposes virtue is evil. Virtue is courage, wisdom, justice, and self-control. Evil is cowardice, ignorance, injustice, and indulgence. So, when you meet a person who consistently acts without these virtues, no matter how kind they sound, step back. Observe. Do not react. Do not argue. Because an evil person feeds on reaction. They crave chaos. It's their oxygen. The moment you give them silence and composure, you take their power away. There's something else. evil cannot stand truth for long. It hides behind excuses, gossip, and blame. Confront it with calm reason and it flees. Expose it with integrity and it crumbles. But that's not your mission. Your mission is not to destroy evil. Your mission is to remain untouched by it. Because true strength isn't in fighting darkness, it's in refusing to become it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Let that be your shield. Be so disciplined, so centered that evil cannot disturb your soul. Be so clear in your intentions that deceit cannot live near your presence. Every evil act you encounter is an invitation to rise, to choose higher ground. Let them lie, you stay honest. Let them cheat, you stay just. Let them hate, you stay peaceful. Not because they deserve it, but because you do." This is the Stoics' power, not to control the world, but to control the response. You cannot stop evil from existing, but you can stop it from entering your heart. And that's how the wise survive, not by fearing darkness, but by mastering themselves so deeply that no darkness can consume them. So remember, when you walk among men, you walk among both light and shadow. But a strong mind doesn't fear either. It sees clearly, feels deeply, it stays unmoved. And that clarity, that calm, unshakable awareness, is your greatest weapon against evil. Because once you understand the nature of darkness, you no longer fear it. You just smile and walk through it like a man who already knows who he is. The mask of kindness, how evil hides behind charm. Evil rarely enters your life wearing a dark cloak. It doesn't arrive with fangs or fury, it walks in smiling. It speaks softly, remembers your birthday, says all the right words. And before you realize it, the same hands that offered comfort begin to tighten around your peace. That's how evil hides, not in hatred but in false kindness. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest evil is not done in the heat of passion, but with calm and smiling faces." The Stoics knew that the most dangerous people are not those who openly hate you, but those who pretend to love you while quietly pulling the strings of your downfall. They disguise control as concern. They disguise manipulation as mentorship. They disguise jealousy as advice. Their charm is not a reflection of goodness, it's a weapon polished to perfection. You see, good people don't need to convince you they're good. Their actions reveal their essence over time. But evil people manufacture an image. They work hard to appear humble, generous, and trustworthy, because their survival depends on your blindness. They thrive when you see only the mask, not the intention behind it. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means that even if someone smiles sweetly, their true colors eventually bleed through, in their words, in their tone, in their patterns. That's why Stoics never judge instantly. They observe quietly. They understand that time exposes what masks try to hide. You must learn to do the same. When someone is excessively flattering, ask yourself, why do they need to be? When someone offers help but expects constant gratitude, question it. When someone always wants to be seen as good, beware. Because genuine virtue is silent. It doesn't demand recognition. Only deception craves applause. Evil often operates through subtlety. They won't stab you, they'll nudge you toward self-destruction. They'll tell you what you want to hear. They'll encourage your worst impulses. They'll use empathy as bait, pulling you deeper into dependence until you forget how to stand alone. That's how evil wins, not by force but by influence. Epictetus taught, when someone flatters you, remember they are either deceiving you or being deceived themselves. Flattery is the sugar that hides the poison. An evil person studies your weaknesses like a scholar. They learn what makes you smile, what makes you feel special, what wounds your ego. Then they use that knowledge, slowly, gently, until you begin to mistake their manipulation for love. But a Stoic doesn't fall for appearance. He looks for consistency. He watches how a person behaves when they gain nothing from you. He observes how they treat others when no one is watching. Because that is where the mask slips. Evil can act for a time, but it cannot pretend forever. The most deceptive form of evil is the rescuer, the one who constantly saves you. They appear every time you're weak, pretending to heal you, only to make you dependent on their presence. They will fix your problems only to remind you later that you owe them everything. They'll call it loyalty, but it's bondage. Stoicism teaches freedom of the soul, independence of thought. Anyone who chains your emotions, even in the name of love, is not helping you. They're feeding on your need to be needed. And that is not kindness, that's control disguised as care. Aurelius once reflected, waste no time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. The evil man does the opposite. He talks about goodness endlessly but never lives it. He builds moral speeches to hide his own corruption. He will preach virtue while practicing deceit. And if you question him, he'll accuse you of being ungrateful or disloyal. That's how emotional traps are built, with guilt and gaslighting. The Stoic response? Silence and distance. Because confronting a mask never reveals truth, it only makes the mask smile wider. The wise man doesn't argue with pretenders. He simply steps back and lets time unveil reality. You must understand, evil is patient. It doesn't rush. It builds trust drop by drop. It gives just enough kindness to make you forget the red flags. Then, when you're emotionally invested, it begins to control, criticize, and corrupt. By the time you notice, you're already tangled in its web. That's why Stoics teach awareness, the discipline of observation. Don't just listen to what people say, watch how they live. Watch how they react to your boundaries. If your kind friend gets angry when you say no, that's not kindness. If your supportive partner discourages your independence, that's not love. If your mentor belittles your progress to keep you dependent, that's not guidance. These are the fingerprints of evil behind a smile. Evil doesn't need to shout. It whispers. It blends in with goodness until you can't tell the difference. It learns your language, your values, your dreams, and then reshapes them to serve its own agenda. That's why you must live awake. The Stoic doesn't move through life half asleep. He questions everything, not from distrust, but from clarity. He knows that truth fears no scrutiny, only lies do. You see, once you master the art of seeing beyond charm, you become free. You no longer fall for sweet words or empty gestures. You no longer mistake intensity for love or attention for loyalty. You start to value peace over excitement, respect over flattery, truth over comfort. And that's when evil loses its power, because it cannot manipulate a person who doesn't need external validation. Seneca said, "The wise man is self-sufficient, though he still desires friends." That's the secret, self-sufficiency. When you no longer crave approval, false kindness cannot seduce you. When you no longer fear solitude, manipulators cannot trap you. When you no longer depend on others to feel worthy, deceit cannot reach you. Because the strongest armor against evil is not suspicion, it's self-mastery. Look around your life. Who brings peace without performance? Who respects your boundaries without guilt-tripping? Who corrects you without humiliation? These are your allies, people who operate in virtue. The rest, those who only show love when it benefits them, are the ones hiding behind charm. A Stoic lives by one rule: observe more, react less. When someone's behavior confuses you, give it time. Truth always survives the test of time. Lies never do. The mask will slip, always. Your job is to be patient enough to see it happen. So don't be blinded by smiles. Don't be fooled by compliments. Remember that the most polished mask often hides the darkest heart. You don't need to hate them, you just need to see them. Because once seen, they lose their power. The goal is not to become paranoid, it's to become aware. To know that not everyone who calls you friend walks in light. To know that not everyone who helps you wants you free. To know that not everyone who loves you understands love. And once you know this truth, you no longer walk in fear, you walk in strength. Because awareness turns manipulation into comedy. It turns deceit into noise. It turns charm into emptiness. The Stoic walks among all kinds of people, kind and cruel, honest and deceptive, yet remains untouchable. What? The power of observation, reading actions, not words. Words are easy. Anyone can speak beautifully, promise endlessly, and swear loyalty until their voice shakes. But words are smoke. They vanish the moment you stop believing in them. The Stoics knew this long before the world learned to lie with a smile. They knew that truth isn't heard, it's seen. That's why they built their lives not on speech, but on observation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe what your nature requires of you and let nothing distract you from doing it." That means, don't be fooled by noise, look at patterns. A person's essence is revealed not in their intentions, but in their behavior. Because behavior never lies. The mask can smile, but the actions will always tell the truth. Evil people talk a lot. They talk about loyalty, about morality, about love and care, but it's all a performance. They use words as weapons, not as mirrors of their soul. They speak of goodness to hide their greed. They talk about virtue to cover their vices. But if you slow down, if you step back and watch, their actions will reveal who they truly are. The Stoics believed in the discipline of perception, the art of seeing clearly. To see clearly, you must separate what is said from what is done. If someone constantly promises but rarely delivers, observe. If someone claims peace but causes chaos, observe. If someone speaks of love but manipulates your emotions, observe. Because the truth doesn't hide from the patient observer. Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." Evil people never have that power, they are slaves to their impulses. Watch them long enough and you'll see inconsistency. Their words shift with their interest. Their kindness fades when they don't get their way. Their empathy disappears when you set boundaries. And that's how you know their goodness was never real. It was a tool. Observation is your protection. It saves you from disappointment, betrayal, and illusion. It teaches you to respond with reason, not emotion. It trains you to see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. The Stoics didn't chase approval, they chased truth. They believed that to live in harmony, one must first master perception. Because a clouded mind is easy to deceive. If your judgment is ruled by hope, fear, or loneliness, you will see what you want to see, not what's real. That's exactly how evil slips through the cracks, through your emotional fog. So the first rule of observation is emotional detachment. You cannot observe clearly if you're attached to the outcome. If you want someone to be good, you'll ignore every sign that they're not. If you fear being alone, you'll justify every red flag to keep the illusion alive. That's not observation, that's blindness by choice. A Stoic sees, accepts, and acts, without emotional distortion. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Meaning, don't let social pressure, appearances, or emotions cloud your sight. Truth doesn't need to please you, it just needs to be seen. Sometimes what you observe will hurt, that's fine. Better the pain of clarity than the comfort of deception. Start small. When you interact with someone, watch how they treat people who cannot benefit them. Observe how they speak about those who are absent. Notice how they behave when no reward is attached. This is where truth hides, in the ordinary, in the moments when no one is watching. Because character is not built in public, it's revealed in private. Evil people often live in contradiction. They speak of empathy but mock the weak. They praise loyalty but betray the loyal. They advocate peace but thrive on conflict. This inconsistency is their signature. It's the noise beneath their charm. And the Stoic, like a skilled listener, hears it clearly. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is wrong, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth." Notice the humility. A good soul welcomes correction. An evil one resents it. That's another sign to observe, how someone reacts to accountability. If they deflect, blame, or attack when confronted, they are not seeking truth, they are protecting deceit. Evil is allergic to transparency. It survives only in confusion and denial. The moment you observe calmly without reaction, you pierce its illusion. That's why manipulators try to keep you emotional, angry, guilty, afraid. Because as long as you're reacting, you're not observing. The moment you detach and watch silently, they panic. Your stillness terrifies them, because silence sees what chaos hides. The Stoic observer doesn't rush to judge. He gathers facts, watches consistency, and measures virtue. He doesn't listen to excuses, he listens to behavior. That's how he avoids being deceived. Because deception works only on the impatient and the emotionally driven. Here's a truth few can handle. You don't need to expose evil people, they expose themselves. Just give them time, freedom, and no reaction. When you stop feeding them your energy, they reveal their hunger. When you stop explaining yourself, they reveal their guilt. When you stop justifying, they reveal their true motive. Time is the greatest mirror, and the Stoic knows how to use it. Observation isn't cold, it's powerful. It's the quiet strength of the wise. It's the ability to stay calm when others perform. It's the discipline to wait until truth surfaces on its own. Because truth always rises, always. In this world, you'll meet people who talk of light but live in darkness. Don't fight them, just watch them. Their actions will show you who they are far quicker than their words ever will. And once you see clearly, your energy will automatically withdraw. You won't need revenge or confrontation. You'll just detach, gracefully, silently, completely. That's the Stoic victory. Seneca once wrote, "The best indication of a person's character is how they behave toward those who can do nothing for them." So observe that. It's not what people say to you when they need something, it's what they do when they need nothing. Evil people use kindness as currency, good people give it freely. Evil people perform virtue, good people embody it. Remember, observation is not about judging others harshly, it's about protecting your peace. It's about knowing who deserves access to your inner circle and who only deserves your silence. The Stoic doesn't close his heart, but he builds gates. He lets love flow, but he guards the door. Because awareness without boundaries is an open wound. Train your mind to watch, not react. When someone speaks, listen for what's not said. When someone acts kind, notice whether it's consistent or conditional. When someone claims loyalty, see if it lasts through silence, distance, or success. Because evil rarely leaves fingerprints, it leaves patterns. Observation is the key to self-preservation in a world where deceit wears virtue's clothing. You don't need to accuse or expose. Just see clearly and act accordingly. That's what the Stoics did. They didn't gossip or hate. They simply understood, adjusted, and moved on. Once you master observation, your perception becomes your shield. No one can manipulate what you see clearly. No one can trap what refuses to react. And no one can deceive what has learned to wait. Evil people want one thing: your reaction. They feed on attention, on argument, on emotional chaos. But when you watch them quietly, they lose all their weapons. They swing at silence and fall into their own shadows. Compassion is one of humanity's greatest strengths, and one of its easiest weaknesses to exploit. The Stoics knew that the same heart capable of deep empathy can also become a doorway for deception. When an evil person cannot control you with power, they will control you with emotion. They will twist your kindness into guilt, your loyalty into slavery, and your compassion into chains. Seneca once warned, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." In other words, beware of emotional traps. They pull you into battles that don't belong to you, pain that isn't yours, and responsibilities you never agreed to carry. Evil people feed not on your strength but on your sensitivity. They know that if they can make you feel responsible for their misery, they can own your peace. Have you ever met someone who constantly plays the victim? They're never wrong, never accountable, never at fault. Every mistake is someone else's doing. Every failure is someone else's betrayal. These people are not weak, they are strategic. By making you their emotional caretaker, they steal your focus, your energy, your power. The Stoics saw this pattern centuries ago. They taught that true compassion must be guided by reason, not emotion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Notice, he didn't say, "Be blind with others." He meant, help when it is right, not when it is demanded through manipulation. There is a difference between empathy and enslavement. Empathy is understanding someone's pain. Enslavement is letting their pain dictate your life. Evil people blur this line. They use guilt to make you surrender your boundaries, your rest, and your peace. And because you care, you comply. That's how the trap closes, quietly, gently, through emotional debt. Stoicism trains you to guard your heart with reason, to feel deeply but to act wisely. Seneca wrote, "No man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity." Meaning, emotional manipulation works only when we're addicted to comfort, validation, or approval. When someone can control your emotions, they control your life. That's why the Stoics' first act of power is emotional independence. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Manipulators know this truth too. That's why they provoke reaction. They push your empathy buttons. They make you feel guilty for saying no, cruel for setting boundaries, selfish for choosing peace. They weaponize your goodness until you no longer know where kindness ends and control begins. Think about this. How often have you helped someone who never changes? Who takes your energy but not your advice? Who cries for rescue but never walks once you lift them? That's not compassion. That's control disguised as need. Evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes it weeps. The Stoic sees through the performance. He doesn't harden his heart. He strengthens his mind. He knows when help uplifts and when help enslaves. He knows when love frees and when love binds. Because compassion without discernment is like water without direction. It floods everything, even your own soul. Emotional manipulators are artists of confusion. They will twist your every act of goodness into a test of loyalty. If you refuse, they make you feel cruel. If you comply, they demand more. Soon you find yourself walking on eggshells, terrified to disappoint. That's not love. That's psychological captivity. Marcus Aurelius taught, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting." Turn their manipulation into your teacher. Let every guilt trip strengthen your boundaries. Let every emotional trap sharpen your awareness. Every manipulator that enters your life is an opportunity to learn self-mastery. They reveal where your heart is too soft, where your empathy lacks discipline. The Stoic doesn't reject emotion, he refines it. He feels compassion but not compulsion. He gives but not endlessly. He listens but not blindly. Because wisdom without empathy is cruelty, and empathy without wisdom is weakness. Balance is the armor. So how do you spot emotional manipulation? Watch for inconsistency. Manipulators change their tone when they want something. They play sad when they need help and superior when they get it. They apologize not to heal but to reset control. They use tears as strategy, silence as punishment, and kindness as currency. Their goal isn't connection, it's dominance wrapped in emotion. When you notice this, don't react. Stay calm. You don't owe an explanation to those who misuse your heart. Distance is not cruelty, it's clarity. Silence is not indifference, it's power. The Stoic understands that walking away from manipulation is not selfish, it's self-respect. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And there is no greater bravery than freeing yourself from emotional slavery. When you say no to guilt, you break the invisible chains. When you refuse to carry others' self-created pain, you reclaim your peace. When you stop apologizing for protecting your energy, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring correctly. You help without attachment. You love without losing yourself. You forgive without forgetting the lesson. You offer empathy with eyes open, not blindfolded. The Stoic approach to compassion is simple. If helping someone destroys your peace, it's not help, it's harm. If loving someone makes you lose yourself, it's not love, it's control. If understanding someone requires you to betray your own values, it's not empathy, it's self-erasure. Evil knows that good hearts hate conflict, so it avoids direct confrontation and builds emotional webs instead. It traps through sympathy, through shared pain, through stories designed to trigger your savior instinct. The Stoic avoids these webs by staying grounded in logic. He listens but doesn't absorb. He cares but doesn't carry. He comforts but doesn't compromise his peace. Remember, you are not responsible for healing those who choose to stay broken. You are responsible only for protecting the strength that can heal yourself. That is not coldness, it's wisdom. Because the more you waste your compassion on those who misuse it, the less you have for those who truly deserve it. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Do not let the behavior of others destroy your inner peace." Let that line live in your heart. Your peace is sacred. It is your greatest defense. Don't trade it for approval. Don't sacrifice it to prove your goodness. The universe doesn't test your kindness, it tests your boundaries. So the next time someone tries to trap you with guilt, pause. Don't react. Ask yourself, is this compassion or is this control? If it costs your peace, it's manipulation. If it drains your strength, it's enslavement. And when you recognize that truth, smile, breathe, and walk away. That is how a Stoic wins the war of emotions, not by closing his heart, but by mastering it. Not by rejecting compassion, but by directing it. Not by fighting manipulation, but by becoming unmanipulable. Because once your compassion learns wisdom, evil can no longer deceive you with tears. You will see through the act, through the words, through the masks. You will offer kindness, but never submission. You will give love, but never your freedom. And that is the power of a truly unshakable mind. Some people enter your life like sunlight. They lift you, energize you, and leave you stronger. And some enter like shadows, draining, confusing, and leaving you with less clarity, less peace, less of yourself. The Stoics call these people disturbers of the soul. They are the ones who feed off chaos, conflict, and control. They don't just bring negativity, they are negativity disguised as company. Epictetus once said, "Keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." The Stoics understood that energy is contagious. If you walk with chaos long enough, it starts to sound like music. If you let toxic spirits whisper long enough, you start to question your own truth. That's why the wise guard their inner peace as if it were a fortress, because evil often enters through friendly doors. Energy drainers come in many forms. Some are loud, dramatic, and obvious. They love conflict. Others are subtle. Victims, complainers, constant critics who wrap their poison in politeness. They don't stab, they leak you slowly. They make every conversation about their suffering, every interaction about their dissatisfaction. No matter how much you give, it's never enough. And when you finally pull away, they make you feel guilty for choosing peace. Seneca warned, "Associate with those who make you better." He didn't say comfortable, he said better. That's the difference between good company and draining company. Good people challenge you to grow. Draining people chain you to stagnation. They are addicted to misery, and like all addicts, they need company. Your joy threatens them, your peace irritates them, and your growth exposes their decay. So they try to pull you back into the pit of emotional noise they live in. You can spot these toxic spirits through patterns. They thrive in drama. They can't survive in peace. If nothing's wrong, they'll create something wrong. If everyone's calm, they'll find a reason to complain. Chaos is their oxygen, they need it to feel alive. And they want you to breathe it too. The Stoic strength lies in observation. He doesn't react to energy, he reads it. He listens not to the words but to the vibration behind them. Does this person leave you lighter or heavier? Does their presence bring calm or confusion? Do you feel drained after being around them, not because of what they said but because of how they live? If yes, then you're facing a spiritual parasite, someone who feeds on peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you let someone's chaos live rent-free in your mind, their color starts to stain you. That's why you must filter your company like you filter what you eat. Because some energies are pure poison and the symptoms are subtle. Loss of motivation, self-doubt, irritability for no reason, a heaviness in the chest that words can't explain. That's the mark of an energy drainer. You feel worse but you can't explain why. The Stoics practiced what we might now call emotional hygiene. They cleaned their inner world daily by reflecting on who they allowed near them. They didn't hate the toxic, they simply withdrew. Epictetus taught, "When you are offended, know that it is your own opinion that has been insulted." Meaning, the moment you engage in another's chaos, you validate it. But the moment you observe it without reaction, you rise above it. Evil people hate that, because chaos dies when ignored. It feeds on attention, and when you starve it, it suffocates. That's why they provoke. They gossip. They start rumors. They twist words to pull you into emotional battles. They want you to defend yourself, explain yourself, prove yourself. Anything that keeps you entangled. But the Stoic doesn't argue with storms. He simply walks away, knowing silence is the highest form of strength. You cannot change a chaos spreader. You can only refuse to host them. You cannot teach peace to those who profit from pain. Their life force is disturbance, and the more you try to help them, the more they pull you down. Seneca said, "What progress have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself." That is the real progress. Learning that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. You owe everyone kindness, but you owe yourself sanity. Here's a Stoic truth. You don't rise by fixing the broken. You rise by standing still in your calm while others crumble in their storms. You inspire by example, not rescue. And when they see they can no longer drain your energy, they will leave, searching for another host who hasn't yet learned detachment. The world is full of noise, endless complaints, pointless arguments, emotional bait. If you want to spot the toxic, watch how they respond to silence. A peaceful soul respects your calm. A toxic one feels attacked by it. They need constant validation, constant reaction, constant chaos. Without it, they panic, because your peace reminds them of what they lost within themselves. The Stoics practiced selective association. They walked among crowds but belonged to none. They smiled at all but shared with few. Not because they were arrogant, but because they understood energy economics. Every interaction is a transaction. You pay with attention, emotion, time. And if the exchange leaves you empty, it's too expensive. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, "You will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil." He expected the toxic. He didn't curse them, he anticipated them. That's the secret. Expectation kills disappointment. When you know the world holds darkness, you stop being shocked by its shadows. So how do you protect yourself? With boundaries, stillness, and awareness. You don't argue with energy drainers, you outgrow them. You don't fight chaos, you rise above it. When someone brings negativity, bring silence. When they provoke emotion, bring calm. When they test your peace, guard it like a king guards his crown. The Stoic mind is an unshakable sanctuary. It refuses to absorb the poison of others. It turns every attack into a test of mastery, every insult into a mirror of character. Because the more they try to shake you, the more you learn how steady you've become. Evil doesn't always wear horns. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it comes as a friend, a partner, a colleague, but its effect is always the same. You feel smaller, dimmer, weaker after being near them. That's your cue. Step back. Reclaim your space. Because not everyone deserves access to your energy, only those who honor it. Seneca said, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is that matters." The same applies to relationships. Not how many you have, but how peaceful they are. Choose quality over company. Choose solitude over chaos. Choose clarity over confusion. Because the moment you stop feeding the wrong energies, you become a source of power the evil cannot touch. When you learn to spot the energy drainers and chaos spreaders, you learn to spot freedom. And when you walk in that freedom, no evil can live near your calm. Your silence becomes your shield. Your peace becomes your power. And your awareness, your greatest weapon. because the one who can see evil clearly is the one it can never deceive again. The battlefield of life is not outside you, it's inside your mind. Evil people don't always attack your body, they aim for your perception, your peace, your clarity. Because if they can shake your thoughts, they can own your reactions. And when they own your reactions, they control your life. That's why the Stoics built their greatest armor not from steel, but from detachment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That single truth separates the free from the enslaved. Most people live as puppets, pulled by invisible strings of emotion, approval, and fear. But the Stoic cuts those strings. He refuses to let another's chaos dictate his calm. He knows that if peace can be stolen, it was never true peace, it was dependency. Guarding the mind begins with understanding its vulnerability. Your thoughts are gates. Every insult, every distraction, every negative person is a knock at those gates. If you open them too easily, the enemy walks right in, whispering doubt, fear, and resentment. But if you guard them with awareness, you stay untouchable. The Stoic doesn't build walls of pride, he builds walls of understanding. He doesn't isolate from the world, he simply filters it. Seneca wrote, "A great mind becomes invincible by controlling itself." That's not arrogance, that's self-mastery. He knew that every person you meet will try to plant something in your mind, belief, opinion, or emotion. But you decide what takes root. An evil person thrives on reaction. The more you respond, the deeper they dig in. When you remain silent, calm, and centered, their influence withers. Because manipulation only works on those who crave validation. Detachment in the Stoic sense is not coldness. It's clarity. It means you still feel, but you choose your response consciously. You can love deeply and still walk away when necessary. You can care genuinely and still remain unshaken by betrayal. That's what makes Stoic detachment so powerful. It's emotional freedom disguised as calm. Imagine your mind as a fortress. The walls are your principles. The guards are your awareness. The treasure inside is your peace. Every day people will come, some to trade wisdom, others to steal calm. You must decide who enters. Marcus Aurelius didn't let opinions or insults enter his gates easily. He reminded himself, if someone does wrong, the harm is to themselves. If you respond with anger, you join them. That's the art of mental defense, responding with reason, not emotion. The Stoic mind doesn't react to provocation, it reads it. It observes manipulation as if it were weather, temporary, powerless, irrelevant. When someone lies, insults, or betrays, the Stoic doesn't drown in it. He studies it. He sees how weak souls act and how strength must never imitate them. Because reacting like them means you've already lost. Seneca once described anger as a brief madness. Evil people love to awaken that madness. They want you to lose yourself in emotion so they can win in silence. But when you guard your mind, you flip the game. You become untouchable, not because you fight harder, but because you don't fight at all. You let truth defend itself and time expose falsehood. That's Stoic detachment, letting virtue speak louder than vengeance. Modern life tempts you to overreact. Social media, gossip, betrayal, all designed to invade your peace. Every click, every rumor, every insult is an invitation to lose focus. But you must ask yourself, does this deserve space in my mind? If it doesn't serve your growth, it doesn't deserve your energy. The Stoics called this discipline the art of indifference. Not indifference to life, but to distraction. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That's detachment in action. He meant, stop living for other people's opinions. Let them misunderstand you. Let them judge you. Peace doesn't need applause. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim the energy that once kept you chained. Guarding your mind also means mastering your inner dialogue. Evil doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it comes from the voices you've absorbed. The critic, the fear, the doubt, they all echo from your past. But you are not those echoes. You are the awareness hearing them. And awareness is stronger than any illusion. When you realize that your thoughts are not facts, only choices, you begin to live free. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every night. He would review his day, not to punish himself, but to purify his mind. What did I allow to disturb me? What could I have ignored? That's mental hygiene. He knew that the mind collects dust, the dust of anger, judgment, and comparison. If left unchecked, that dust becomes blindness. So each evening he wiped his mental lens clean with reflection. And that's what you must do, daily cleansing, daily clarity. To guard your mind is to live as a sovereign being. It means your happiness doesn't depend on how others treat you. It depends on how you interpret them. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Most pain comes not from what happens but from how we think about it. The Stoic transforms every wound into wisdom by detaching from interpretation. You cannot stop evil people from existing, but you can stop them from existing inside you. That's the real victory. They can speak, scheme, and try, but their power ends where your reaction begins. You hold that gate. You decide what enters. That decision, moment by moment, is what makes you invincible. Guard your mind as if it were the last piece of peace on earth, because in many ways, it is. The world will always test your patience, tempt your ego, and challenge your values. But your mind, calm, disciplined, and detached, will remain your eternal fortress. And within that fortress, no evil can breathe. Only awareness, only strength, only peace. That is Stoic detachment, not escape from life, but mastery of it. To live among chaos without becoming chaotic. To walk through fire without burning. To see evil and remain pure. And to know, deep within, no one can steal your peace unless you hand it to them. Part 7. Choose the light, walking away without hate. There comes a point in every seeker's journey where confrontation no longer serves growth. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that evil cannot be destroyed by returning its energy. It can only be rendered powerless when you stop feeding it attention, emotion, and hate. To spot evil is one thing. To not become it while resisting it, that is mastery. In this final step, the Stoic and the awakened mind make a choice, not between others and themselves but between light and darkness within. Evil thrives when it can provoke you, when it can drag you into the same chaos it lives in. That's why the Stoics train themselves not only to recognize malice but to rise above it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Read that again. Let it settle. When you refuse to mimic the cruelty you've seen, you break the cycle of corruption that evil tries to extend through you. Because evil doesn't just want to harm you, it wants to turn you. It wants your peace to turn into anger, your empathy to become suspicion, your kindness to rot into vengeance. That's the real victory it seeks. The moment you lose your inner equilibrium, you've given evil what it could never steal, your spirit. So, when you spot an evil person, don't only distance yourself from them physically. Remove them from your mind. Stop replaying their actions, stop explaining their motives, stop wishing they'd see their own darkness. They won't. Evil doesn't reflect, it projects. It throws its pain at others to avoid facing itself. Don't stand there trying to show it a mirror. Walk away and carry your peace with you. Walking away is power, not weakness. Our society often glorifies confrontation. The loud clapbacks, the revenge arcs, the show them who you are attitude. But the Stoic way is different. Real strength is silent. It's in walking away without hate. It's in keeping your principles untouched. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The same applies to emotional control. The person who must respond, must prove, must expose, is still enslaved by the evil they claim to hate. But the one who can turn away calmly, who guards his peace like a sacred flame, that person is free. Your silence doesn't mean surrender. It means transcendence. When you stop fighting on their level, you rise to a plane where they can no longer reach you. Evil wants reaction, chaos, noise. But peace starves it. Forgiveness, the highest form of freedom. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. Forgiving doesn't mean accepting what they did or pretending it didn't happen. It means freeing yourself from the emotional chain that keeps you connected to their darkness. You see, hate is a form of attachment. It keeps you mentally bound to the very person you want to escape. When you forgive, you cut the cord. You declare to your mind, you no longer live rent-free here. The Stoics knew this truth. Resentment is poison brewed for another but consumed by the self. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things." So if you decide that their evil no longer defines your story, it loses all control over you. You walk away lighter, cleaner, freer. Forgiveness is a discipline. It doesn't always come with ease, but it comes with peace. And peace, that's what makes you untouchable. Living above evil. Evil people feed on the energy they cannot create, your goodness, your attention, your outrage. But when you stop offering it, they wither. You don't need to announce your exit or explain your peace. Just go. Move forward quietly, but carry that fire of awareness with you. Never let your compassion be used against you again. Let your boundaries speak for you. The Stoics didn't seek revenge because they didn't seek validation. They knew every moment spent chasing justice from the unjust was a moment stolen from self-mastery. They lived above evil by staying devoted to virtue, wisdom, courage, discipline, justice. When you live by these, you are already defeating evil every single day. Let others talk, lie, manipulate, and deceive, you stay rooted. Remember, evil seeks to divide, but a disciplined mind remains united with itself, choosing the light. In a world where darkness seems louder, choosing light is rebellion. It's a conscious act of resistance. It means refusing to harden when the world tries to break you. It means staying kind even when kindness isn't returned. It means protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Marcus Aurelius would wake each morning and remind himself, "Today I will meet the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious." Yet he did not despair. He expected evil, and by expecting it, he neutralized its power to shock or control him. You too must walk through this world with awareness and calm. Expect the wicked, but don't become them. See their nature clearly, but don't let it poison yours. That's how you walk in light. Final reflection. Spotting evil isn't about paranoia. It's about perception. It's about knowing who stands beside you and, more importantly, who you're becoming as you walk among them. Every encounter with darkness is a test of your own light. So, when evil tries to pull you into the mud, remember, you are not meant to wrestle there. You are meant to rise. You are meant to see it, learn from it, and then walk away untouched. The Stoics taught, you can't control the world, but you can control what kind of soul you bring into it. That is the ultimate power, to choose the light even when surrounded by shadows. So walk away. Not in hate, not in fear, but in full, sovereign peace. Because when you walk away without hate, you don't just spot evil, you defeat it. End of part 7.